Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports tonight for the MotoGP in Qatar. This is the first time we're doing MotoGP on this channel, so let's have a go at this. And yeah, just coming to you from Qatar, the starting grid for the 2024 sprint race, as well as the race tomorrow afternoon, will be Jorge Martin in first place, Alex Espargaro in second place for Aprilia, Enea Bastianini in third, Brad Binder from South Africa in fourth, Francesco Bagnaia in fifth, riding for that Ducati Lenovo team, with Marc Marquez, his first race weekend in his new Ducati Works team, Gresini Ducati, with Fabio Di Gianantonio in seventh behind him, Pedro Acosta in eighth, Alex Marquez, of course, Marc Marquez's brother in ninth, Maverick Vinales in 10th, Jack Miller 11th, Raul Fernandez in 13th, or in 12th, Johan Zarco in 13th, Miguel Oliveira in 14th, Marco Bezzecchi in 15th, Fabio Quartararo starting in 16th, Joan Mir in 17th, Augusto Fernandez 18th, Taka Nakagami in 19th, Alex Rins in 20th, Luca Marini in 21st, and Franco Morbidelli in 22nd for his Pramac Ducati team. So just looking over the Qatar circuit at the moment, waiting for the race to get started. Of course, this is going to be a short sprint race out under the lights in Qatar, but let us know down in the comment section who you think is going to take the race win out here in Qatar, not only for the sprint race this evening, but also for the race tomorrow evening. Just looking in the comment section at the moment, just pulling that up on my side. We've got a poll running saying who will win the sprint race. We've got Marquez, Martin, Binder, and Bastianini as all of the options over there. With Marquez currently having 44% of the vote, now just jumped up to 50. Martin with 40, Binder with 10, and Bastianini with 0% of that vote. So do be sure to go and vote that down there, as well as let us know in the comment section where you're watching from. It would be great to know. Myself, I'm in South Africa, so of course, giving a lot of support for Brad Binder. Just waiting on for this race to get going. It should get going in about 6 minutes time. And be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to also check out all of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER, as we are waiting for this race to get out under the lights for the first race in the MotoGP season. Of course, there is a lot of questioning going on about Marc Marquez moving from Yamaha to Ducati this season. But after looking at testing, it was looking quite interesting for him in that bike. Of course, the fundamentals of those bikes are completely different from one team to another. So it takes a bit of adjusting in between teams. But I mean, Marc Marquez is a multi-world champion and will be sure to be putting up a fight from the first race out here in Qatar. Of course, starting down in, I think it was 6th for this race. I'm sure he will be putting on some pressure from the rear there at the start. He will be wanting to make up any opportunities he can as we're waiting for the lights to get out. We're watching on at the Prix guys getting their riders ready, as well as, of course, the Ducati teams getting their riders ready for the start as well. Four minutes now left to go until we get down for the start here. The BMW safety car waiting at the front of the pack right now, as we still have so many people on track. They're all starting to funnel them out as the start is very, very close. Watching Pecco Bagnaia get onto his bike, getting ready for the start, putting on his helmet and gloves, as well as just having his last drink before he goes around the circuit for, I think it is about 10 laps for the Tissot Sprint. It's going to be a very quick and very, very competitive sprint race here for the first race of the season. Of course, everyone's going to be getting their elbows out, going to be wanting to get those first points on the board, but it is a long season ahead. You, of course, don't want to take any massive risks and lose out on getting maybe some more experience for the race tomorrow as well. Pecco Bagnaia, of course, being the current world champion, as we're just about 3 minutes to get going for this MotoGP sprint. And of course, we also have Formula One on this evening, which I'm going to be heading up as well. So do be sure to join us for that, which I think gets going at about 7 o'clock. Of course, coming from South Africa, I can't help but talk about Brad Binder. He is doing so well at the moment in MotoGP, the first South African rider in quite some time. And of course, his brother has also now joined I think he's in Moto2, is his brother, I think it's Darren Binder. But of course, South Africans are loving having Brad Binder in MotoGP. We'd love to have a race around Kyalami, which we were hoping for Formula One, but unfortunately that did not happen. But I think maybe with a bit more of the push from MotoGP, they could have a MotoGP race around here, as we have the safety car doing its final sighting laps before we get out here in Qatar. Just looking at the titles now running with Pedro Acosta, Johan Mir, and Rob Fernandez, and of course the rest of the grid. We're getting very, very close to the start of this MotoGP race. Just to go over the starting grid once again, we have Jorge Martin in first place with Alex Espargaro in second, and Nia Bastianini in third, Brad Binder down in fourth, Francesco Bagnaia in fifth, Marc Marquez in sixth, Fabio Di Giannantonio in seventh, Pedro Acosta in eighth, Alex Marquez ninth, Maverick Vinales in 10th, Jack Miller in 11th, Raul Fernandez down in 12th, Johan Zarco in 13th, Miguel Oliveira in 14th, Marco Bezzecchi in 15th, Fabio Quartararo 16th, Joan Mir in 17th, Augusto Fernandez 18th, Taka Nakagami in 19th, Alex Rins in 20th, Luca Marini in 21st, and Franco Morbidelli down in 22nd in his Pramac Ducati. Do be sure to let us know in the comment section who you are backing for this MotoGP race, and do be sure to vote in our poll that we currently have running. As these titles now start coming to an end, we're getting really, really close to the start of this GP sprint. On the front row, of course, is Martin Espargaro and Bastianini, three very, very punchy drivers or riders off the line. Brad Binder, Bagnaia, and Marquez will be in that second row, hoping to make up a couple positions into that first corner. This Qatar track is really, really fast. It's used for MotoGP as well as Formula One, so we are a little bit more familiar with it, but it's going to be a very, very interesting start to this race. As we have Philippines Ball saying hi down there in the comment section. Thank you very much for commenting as we're getting ready for the sighting lap to get going here. The riders are now off the line, watching off the back of Marco Bezzecchi's bike, just seeing how close they, of course, all get to each other. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with Marc Marquez, of course, starting down in sixth, his first race in that factory Ducati bike instead of that Yamaha bike, which he's been riding for so long and gotten so many of his world championships with. Has he made the right choice? Possibly he has, as he is now going around the circuit for his sighting lap. Just watching them now coming around the corners and waiting for them to finish up on this sighting lap. Just looking at the gaps between these riders right now, it is going to be so, so close off the line. Just struggling with my feed here for a second, but just watching the gaps on my board. I'm sure we're going to get going very, very soon here for the start of the MotoGP. Do be sure, as I said, to let me know in the comment section who you are supporting for this, as My King says Marc Marquez 93 there in the comment section, so letting us know who he is supporting for today. All the riders are now up on the line, getting ready for the start of this race. Who is going to be first off the line, though? That is what counts. Who's going to be first into that first corner, as we're having them all lining up now? Who will take the first corner? I'm surely going to be seeing a couple dives from the likes of Brad Binder as we're now waiting for the clock to tick down. Green flag now being shown, waiting for the start of this race. The lights start and go out. It's a very fast start from Jorge Martin. Brad Binder also doing brilliantly, coming through on the left-hand side into the first corner. He finds himself now up into first place with Jorge Martin ahead of him. Enea Bastianini now down in third with Alex Espargaro fourth. Jack Miller now down in fifth with Marc Marquez still staying around where he started in seventh, just getting that place taken away from Jack Miller, well, by Jack Miller, who now is up into sixth place. Just looking now at Jorge Martin in the front, ahead of Brad Binder, really, really close between those two. Brad Binder right on the tail of Jorge Martin. Alex Espargaro as well, down in third, really putting a lot of pressure on them as well. We're seeing a bit of a swap there between Marc Marquez and, is that D'Antonio? Yes, making his way now up into seventh, ahead of Marquez, as Marquez gets taken down into eighth. Alex Marquez now behind his brother in that other factory Ducati bike. So maybe Marquez not enjoying his time as much as he may have liked, as Bagnaia now gets himself up into fourth, ahead of Bastianini. D'Antonio having a brilliant start, having started quite a bit further down, has made himself now up into seventh position. Acosta in eighth, Marquez now down in ninth. He's not having a great start to his race, as we're looking at Brad Binder having a little look at a pass on Martin, but not able to make that work. Marc Marquez still not having the greatest start to his race, but he has made up a few more positions now into sixth, where I would have hoped he could have stayed at the start of the race. That was his starting position, as we now have him going back a place again into seventh. Acosta has lost a position. He's down in 11th place now with Fernandez down in 12th as well. Not too much movement down at the bottom of the grid, but a lot of fighting in the top 10 right now. Martin has now pulled out a little bit of a gap from Brad Binder. Now it's about, I think it's just over a second or so between those two. Brad Binder is going to be wanting to try bring that gap up, or gap down a little bit more if he wants to take that position. 10 laps to go though for this MotoGP sprint. Just looking from Pedro Acosta's front tyre as he's really chasing down Jack Miller for 9th position. He's really all over the back of him. Will he make a dive into this next corner? Yes, he does. Late on the brakes and takes 9th place from Jack Miller. Very, very good dive there from Pedro Acosta. Pedro Acosta makes himself in the points now as we see another pass attempt from Jack Miller coming back on Pedro Acosta, but he's not able to make that move stick. Pedro really defending well there. The gap now from Alex Espargaro to Brad Binder is 0.42 seconds. So quite a bit of time now from Brad Binder and Jorge Martin to the rest of the grid. They're slowly starting to pull out ahead of them. Marquez is now making his way towards the factory Ducati bikes of, I think that is, Bastianini and Bagnaia as not Brad Binder, as Marc Marquez is up into 6th place once again. Out at the front, though, between Jorge Martin, as we see a rider on the on the road. That is Fabio. Who is that? Fabio Diaz-Giannantonio. He was doing really, really well up in the top 10. He is now out of the race in the gravel, but luckily okay. But you can see he's quite frustrated with himself. That could have been a really, really good race finish for him, as we're now seeing some more shuffling at the front of the grid with Marc Marquez. I think he has the fastest lap of the race at the moment. Yes, he does, with a 1:52.0 with 8 laps to go right now. Brad Binder, 0.2 seconds now behind Martin, as Alex Espargaro has fallen to 0.59 seconds behind Binder and Martin. Marc Marquez is really starting to push now. He's trying to catch those factory Ducati bikes of Bastianini and Bagnaia. He can certainly make it into the top 3 if he has the pace that he is currently showing. Jorge Martin is also really, really just holding on to that race win at the moment. He's being quite calm and holding the pace ahead of Brad Binder. But you can't let Binder get too close behind you, because he will go for a late lunge. Down in 10th, Vinales has also been having a good race. He's 3.4 seconds off the race leader now, as Martin is trying to break away from Brad Binder, but that gap is still staying relatively solid at 0.3 seconds between the two of them. Bastianini now putting in some good laps as well, being able to match what his teammate or what Marquez has been doing behind him. He's put in a 1:52.3, which is just a little bit slower than Marquez's fastest lap. Brad Binder currently running on 2 sets of mediums, so medium at the front and medium at the back. So not mixing up the tires here around in Qatar. It is a really, really high degradation circuit, so you do want to have those harder tires on your bike. Watching on board with Brad Binder coming around the circuit, trying to get closer to the back of Jorge Martin. 0.3 seconds is that gap right now. Behind him, 0.3 seconds to Bagnaia. Bagnaia is still really trying to chase them down, but not being able to make it up just yet. But there are still 7 laps to go. More yellow flags out in the 3rd sector at the moment. I don't know if anyone's gone off or fallen off, but Binder really getting all over the back of Jorge Martin at the moment in the braking zone. Currently, we are on lap 5 of 11 as Brad Binder looking again at a lunge on Martin as they're coming through to the final few sectors. Jorge Martin really starting to put a few meters in between himself and Brad Binder now, but will he be able to hold him off for much longer as Binder also really trying to reel it in the braking zones. Marc Marquez, though, is on the move. He's moved himself up into 5th place now ahead of Bastianini in that Ducati racing team, the factory team that is, with, of course, Marc Marquez in his first race on a factory or on a Ducati bike, that is. Looked like Bastianini just made a little bit of a mistake in the braking zone, went a little bit too wide, and that is where Marc Marquez took his chance and came in on the inside. Brad Binder so close now between himself and Jorge Martin. It's 0.182 seconds between the two of them right now. Jorge Martin has now opened up that advantage to Brad Binder. It is now sitting at 0.5 seconds, so Martin now starting to stretch his legs as we're coming up to the final few laps of this Tissot sprint race in Qatar. Alex Espargaro and Marc Marquez are now fighting it out for 4th position with, of course, Espargaro up in 4th. Marquez is closing that gap, though. It is down to 0.1 seconds. Marquez, one of the fastest riders out on circuit right now, and it's not far away from him to 1st place. It's only 1.4 seconds, so it's not forever away. It's, of course, not the easiest to make as he's getting a great slipstream now, coming around the outside of Alex Espargaro, and he's made it up very well ahead before that braking zone. He's now getting very close to the back of Bagnaia. That is his next man up the road to make up a position. Number 1 man, Francesco Bagnaia. He is going to be feeling the pressure of Marc Marquez on a very competitive bike behind him. Marc Marquez doing really well in this Ducati. Still 5 laps to go, so plenty of time for Marc Marquez to make up some more positions. But Jorge Martin now really starting to open up that gap to Brad Binder. Brad Binder has possibly lost his opportunity in this race as Martin still opening up that gap at now 0.674 to Binder behind. Last time around, Marc Marquez put in a 152.571, a really fast lap time around here. Francesco Bagnaia, of course, as I said, the next rider up the road for him. Of course, this is also giving us a bit of a taste as to what we could see tomorrow evening in the proper race out here in Qatar. It's going to be very exciting after what we've seen here today. It's going to be the exact same starting grid, so we'll get a few more changes in the strategy, I'm sure. Marc Marquez now 0.2 seconds behind Francesco Bagnaia. First sprint race of the season, of course, and it's the first race weekend of the season out here in Qatar. It's very exciting to be back underway for MotoGP. Also very exciting to be back underway for Formula One as we have the Saudi Grand Prix race as well this evening. I'm going to be doing that after the MotoGP, so be sure to tune into that if you like Formula One as well. Marc Marquez looking really, really racy out there on that Gresini Racing bike. He's getting so close now to the back of Bagnaia. Really, Bagnaia must be feeling the pressure in that factory Ducati bike. Jorge Martin, though, still comfortably in the lead of this race, with Brad Binder in second by 0.6 seconds. That is really, really dominant from Jorge Martin here this afternoon. And we're going to have to wait and see what Brad Binder can do in the final stages, if he can try and mount a bit of an attack. But I think he's possibly just gotten into the latter stage of the race. His tyres are a little bit too far gone, and he's not able to make up those positions. Well, that final position for first place. Brad Binder's teammate, Jack Miller, is down in 10th position in that other KTM factory bike. Marquez now trying to get past Bagnaia there, looking for a bit of a move, and now he has lost 4th position as well to Alex Espargaro. Made a bit of a mistake coming through the final few stages of the lap, and Alex Espargaro just saw an opportunity and he definitely took it there. He was not waiting around for Marc Marquez. Martin is really managing the race for the final few laps now, as he's still got about a half a second gap to Brad Binder behind him. Alex Espargaro, just watching his replay, how he got past Marc Marquez. It was so, so close, but brilliant racing from those two riders. Looking a bit further down the grid, we have, of course, Jack Miller down in 12th, Oliveira in 13th, Johan Zarco in 14th, Fernandez, Raul Fernandez in 15th, Joan Mir in 16th, Alex Rins in 17th, Taka Nakagami 18th, Fernandez 19th, Marini in 20th, Morbidelli in 21st, and of course, because of that crash, Di Gianantonio is a DNF from this race. 3 laps now left to go. Joan Mir still in first, Brad Binder still in second, with Francesco or Bagnaia in third. Marc Marquez making his way back into fourth now, and Alex Espargaro in fifth. Brad Binder was able to put a little bit of time back in these closing stages, but now Martin is once again opening up that gap between, with Brad Binder, 0.2 seconds is the gap now to Bagnaia behind him. So it could get very, very close in these final stages. It could get a little bit hairy for Binder if he does not manage his tyres well enough. That gap is really, really growing now between himself and Martin in first place. So for the first race of the 2024 season, we're going to see Martin catching onto points for the first position here. Brad Binder as well getting some good points, with, of course, Bagnaia as well in third place. Marc Marquez now down in fifth. The gap to Alex Espargaro has really fallen off. He has struggled in these final stages, possibly used up a little bit too much of his tyres, as we're now watching Espargaro trying to make a move for third position, but Bagnaia just having much better drive out of that corner. Espargaro clearly looking a lot faster at this moment than Bagnaia. He's going to be mounting up a move in these final closing stages of the race with 2 laps to go now. Bagnaia just positioned himself perfectly there to block off Espargaro. Espargaro really desperately trying to make that move happen, but he was just not able to do that, as Bagnaia just really closed the door off in the braking zone. Espargaro still really closing in on him and following really, really well as we're waiting for them to go down the final start-finish straight to maybe catch a really good slipstream. Martin's still comfortably in first place. Brad Binder has now once again opened up that gap to Bagnaia behind him. Quartararo has passed Bezzecchi behind him as now Espargaro makes a move now into one of the mid corners for the battle for this third position. But now he has not got the slipstream to Bagnaia behind him. Will Bagnaia mount another move into the first corner of the racetrack? He does, but will Espargaro be able to hold it off? Yes, he does. So that is now third place stolen away from Francesco Bagnaia. Bagnaia looking to take his first sprint podium here in Qatar this weekend as the battle for third still continues, but the battle for first seems to be well and done at this point on the last lap of this Qatar Tissot sprint. Martin has really got a good gap to Binder behind him, 0.56 seconds, as Binder's really trying to close the gap on him. They are putting away quite quickly from Bagnaia behind them at 0.8 seconds, or rather, I should say, Espargaro. Jorge Martin now coming across the line to finish up the sprint race here in Qatar. Brad Binder finishes in second. Alex Espargaro gets that sprint race podium with Francesco Bagnaia in fourth. Marc Marquez finishing in fifth. Bastianini in sixth. Alex Marquez in seventh. Pedro Acosta finishing in eighth. Vinales in ninth. We have Miller in 10th. Bezzecchi in 11th. Quartararo Quartararo in 12th, but Oliveira in 13th, Raul Fernandez in 14th, Joan Mir in 15th, Zarco 16th, Alex Rins in 17th. Then we have Fernandez in 18th, Taka Nakagami 19th, Franco Morbidelli in 20th, and in 21st, we have Luca Marini. And then, of course, the DNF being Di Gianantonio from this race, as he did crash out there. Brilliant race, though, from Martin, really dominating the likes of Brad Binder and Alex Espargaro, those other podium finishers for this race. It's going to be, of course, repeated tomorrow for the proper race out here in Qatar. Do be sure to join us for that as well. As people just giving their support for Marc Marquez in the comments section, as Mike King just says MM93 there, as well as Aid Motor Channel also just gives us a nice little comment. Do be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula One and MotoGP content. We're going to be moving across to the Formula One quite shortly, so do be sure to join us for that as well. And be sure to let us know what you thought of this MotoGP sprint race in Qatar.